Hello and welcome to Life's Nuggets with Susan and Patricia. My name is Patricia and I'm a mindset coach.
And I'm Susan. I'm a nutritionist and lifestyle coach.
Welcome, everyone. So, Susan, we have an interesting topic today.
Do
We're
I'm
talking
so
about perfectionism.
Oh yes. I think a lot of people will be able to relate to this in some shape or form.
It is, they will. And I think, for a lot of us, we probably don't know if that affects us or not, because I know that with me, I never thought that I was a perfectionist. And yet I am. I just didn't know it. So just to start off with, like what actually is a perfectionist? And a perfectionist, like versus just somebody who likes to, a high achiever, because there's nothing wrong with being a high achiever.
Oh, I agree. Yeah.
Yeah, it's that perfectionist is where you have almost impossibly high standards.
Mm,
That good is just never gonna be
enough.
good
Yeah.
enough. And that when you're constantly worried about being judged, what are other people gonna think? So you're actually coming from a place of fear,
Yeah.
criticism, and somebody giving you bad feedback, like all of that sort of stuff is soul crushing because it's like
Yes.
I am a bad person versus, oh geez, I need to learn that a different way, or I need to try it a different way and represent it. So those are the
Yeah.
differences between like high achieving and perfectionists.
Yeah. And I think like I had an experience working for someone who was, and I didn't realize that's what was going on
Mhm.
until I stepped away from the situation. Right. And it's kind of a lot of things that you mentioned. It was certainly a level of control, you
Yes.
know. So you're told at the beginning that these are going to be your tasks and this is going to be your role. And every time you try and step into that role and really own it, the perfectionist person somehow always comes back and is like, well, you're not ready yet, or maybe this needs to be done beforehand. And if this is a new role that you are stepping into, I didn't push or fight because I thought, okay, well, maybe they're right.
Yeah.
Maybe right. And this is, I think, the tricky thing. And then you start seeing sort of other elements of, just like you said, whatever you do isn't quite good enough. And it's true, it eats away at you, which was, for me, this went on for maybe not quite a year. And then there's little flashes where you think, well, actually, no, it's all right. I can do this. And then just when you feel it's like crawling out of a bucket, just when you feel you're getting to the top, it's like wham. And it's like back down the hill you go. I was like, right.
Exactly.
And it wasn't until we were having this conversation about this podcast that I actually realized that that person was a perfectionist. They were not a high achiever
They were
because when I started to look around, there was a certain amount of staff that was often rotating. Things that were supposed to be happening never quite happened. And I'm like, well, why? And again, when I was able to kind of get out of it, I'm like, oh, okay, that's why.
Yeah. Problem with perfectionism is because you're so afraid, and even though you don't think that you're afraid, you're
Mm.
so afraid of being judged or not having things correctly done. Fear of failure is that, especially if you're a leader.
Mm.
So if you're a leader and you're struggling with perfectionism, you will often take things over. So when your
Mm.
staff comes to you and you like, okay, it's actually not to your standards, a lot of times they will just take it over.
Mm.
They're not good at delegating because, well, it's just easier. I've had clients who've said this to me. Well, it was just easier if I did it. They tend to really squash creativity, limit
Yes.
innovation. Things don't tend to come in on time because you're so busy making sure that it's correct that
Mm.
you lose your time management. So leaders who are struggling with perfectionism can come across as jerks, I think.
Ruthless.
Let's
Yes.
face
That
it,
would be,
we could say
yes.
other words, but they don't come across in the best light. But it's actually, this is very fear-based, and this is a really big thing. And
Yeah.
this is where it's coming from. And so I've had
See.
leaders who are perfectionists who have actually said, HR has come to them and said, we're having some complaints or we're having something, or maybe you might want to look into this,
Mm.
because the more you can deal with your own stuff so that you're not fearful.
And
And
put it onto others. I think, as you said, this is what it is, right? Is when they're seeking that perfectionism, it's really essentially nothing about what you're doing. It's about how they think people will perceive them, right?
100%, it really, we take it very personally when we are being told our work is not good enough. But it's actually not about us. When you're dealing with a perfectionist, right?
Yes.
Like maybe your work needs to be fixed up a little bit, right?
Mhm.
But if they're constantly just taking it over and just doing it, like, burnout,
Mm.
anxiety, depression, those are all things that can happen, because if you're constantly worried about what everybody's thinking and you're taking it all over. I've had clients who are saying, I stay up late at nights redoing work, and I
Oh
don't
my
tell
gosh.
them that I'm redoing their work because I don't want to hurt their
Yeah.
feelings.
That makes me think
Oh,
actually that when I was working in this environment, um, the perfectionist in question was very proud of the fact that they had really, really full, busy, intense days and sort of wore it almost as a badge of honor. And I remember at one point I was like, do I try and feed into this? Like, because you're trying to figure out where you stand with them. And I was like, okay, if I don't want to become like that, that's not my MO. But I'm like, but to be able to work in this environment, is that something that's something essentially that I would have to do so that way I would be seen almost valuable enough to the person. Does that make sense? And I remember trying at one point to kind of espouse that and do the same thing, like have these chock-a-block full days, so that I could show that I'd done things and worked hard and like you said, you get tired, and I was just like, why am I doing this? Like,
yeah,
this is not, telling people that you're doing all of this in a day and you never have a moment to do anything else. To me, when I took a step back, it's like that's a lack of time management. That's a lack of, you
yeah.
know, um, yeah, of how to manage your time and your skills and your energy. And like, it's not healthy to be like stressed
Not
and busy
healthy.
from the morning you wake up to the minute you go to bed. Like, no, I'm not going to live like that.
But it is hard to spot, though.
Oh,
It's
it was
hard to
hard. It took me a
spot
while.
a perfectionist.
Yeah.
Because there's more than just one way of being a perfectionist, and this is my way. So I'm a perfectionist, recovering perfectionist, working on my perfectionism, however you want to do that. Um, so because that fear of being judged can also hold us back. So
One.
that has been my thing as well, is whereas and I really have to push myself and work for it to put myself out there. And obviously, we're doing this podcast. So I've gotten a lot better at it as I
You're amazing.
recognize my as I recognize my stuff. But when I think back of all the years that I held myself back because of being, my fear of being judged.
Yeah.
Um,
And I think especially, as we're talking about that, especially when you are running your own business and you are, like you said, trying to put yourself out there, there's so much information that's thrown to you at the beginning. You have to have things done a certain way. It has to look a certain way. It has to conform. It has to be perfect, right? You can't send out a post. You can't send this out or that out unless it's been like, reread 8 times. And if you have a spelling mistake in something, like you said, people are going to look and go, she's not serious about her business, right? And I remember really suffering from that at the beginning. I didn't dare do anything. It, like you said, it froze me, it crippled me. I was just like, I can't, and like you, I'm recovering now. I'm trying to just go, okay, because I see what other people put out there, and I'm like, well, that's okay. And people still like follow, go and seek information from them. So, you know, um,
I think what people what people are kind of missing the point on is that, like, especially if you're putting together a document or something, what people want to know is they want to know you. They want to know what your thoughts, what you are bringing to the table. It doesn't matter if all your I's are dotted or not, or if you said it the right way or whatever. It's your brilliance, and why you're in that position is because of you. And I
Mm,
think particularly as women, we're just so much harder on ourselves. Men
mm,
are perfectionists too, and they show up, it shows up a little bit differently with them. Men
mm.
think
Interesting.
that other people expect them to be perfect. So they're very much other related. And their perfection can come up with being angry, irritable, constantly busy. That's kind of how they deal with their perfectionism. But for women, we are just so scared. Like we have to know everything before we put ourselves out there.
Yeah.
And, this also shows up in our relationships. It shows up with everything. And we are burning ourselves out, and we are, trying to be the perfect parents and the perfect employee. And you know what? What do kids need? Kids need you. They need your attention, your presence, that
Mm.
you're actually focused on them. And quality is more important than quantity.
I,
And
yeah.
so it's really important that we understand what's going on, because perfectionism comes from somebody, somewhere. I mean, I had a client who said to me once, like, I really thought my perfectionism was like my eye color and I couldn't change it. And so I thought that was brilliant the way she had said that, because yes, it
Oh,
can
I get it now. Sorry, it took me a second. I was listening and I'm like, oh, yes.
perfectionism, that this is just a part of who I am and I can't change it. But it's not, it's a learned behavior.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. I mean, I had this discussion. It kind of falls indirectly into perfectionism. So, housework. How clean do you keep your house? Right? And I'm not asking you but do you know what I mean? Like, our house is full, two dogs, a cat. Now, when I was younger, for health reasons, my mum used to vacuum every day because I was asthmatic, but we still had three dogs, so go figure. And my stepdad was like, "Why are you vacuuming? I can't stand the first." And he didn't care, but it drove her nuts. And I realized I carried that concept of perfectionism of, it has to be neat and tidy and for
That's what a
quite
proper wife and mother does.
right.
Yeah.
My husband, not at all like that. And thank goodness, because over the years, I've really learned to just let go and go, this is just going to have to wait. It's not going to kill me if there's a fur ball from the dogs on the ground in the corner, which my mum would have gone loopy had she seen it. I've learned to walk past it or to embrace it and just go, you know what? If I didn't want that on the floor, then I shouldn't have dogs,
Yeah.
right?
So,
As long as the kitchens are clean, the toilets are clean, the rest, when I get to it, I'll get to it. And I think that's how, when you say perfectionism, I battled with that quite a long time to really make peace with it and go, this is my home. Um, and I'd like to do it how it fits my lifestyle, not how others perceive it to be. And if they come and then they don't like those fur balls on the floor, well, I'm sorry, that's our home, right?
that's the way it
It's
is.
just it's that fear of being judged. I'm like, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
that's just how this whole household rolls, kind of thing.
And when you think about fear of being judged, um, we're if we've been criticized a lot,
Mm.
if we were acknowledged because of our achievements, all of those things, let's say we had kind of an absent parent, and so we wanted to have them acknowledge us, and so we try and do the very best we can all the time. So those things come from somewhere. And if it's a fear of being judged, and a lot of this is subconscious, we're not even thinking about it.
Oh, I am so sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So if we're really being scared of being judged, that will come from somewhere. And if it comes from somewhere, then it can be changed. But we
I like
have
that.
to
Yeah.
challenge our perspective. We have to get to know ourselves. Where does this come from? Is it logical that if I make a mistake or if I do something that's not quite right, that people will reject me? that
Mm,
people won't want to be my friends anymore. I've actually had people say that if I don't do it correctly, my friends won't want to be friends with me anymore. Is that logical? If you flip that around, would you not be friends with somebody because they didn't do something completely perfect?
yeah.
Right? So we really need to challenge our perspectives and then start taking small little
Yeah.
steps
To undo
to
that.
to undo that and fill ourselves with, no, I am enough.
Mm,
If I've done my very best, that's enough.
yeah.
And these things are so important because we can it can cause problems not only in our leadership style, but in as we're working, it's really hard to be a team player when you're not letting anything go. It's hard in your relationships because you're constantly trying
Wanting
to
to
get
control. Yeah.
approval and control. And it's that, do you like me now? Or do you like me now?
Have I
Oh,
done enough? Have I done enough? Yeah.
yeah. And that's too much. And you can actually kill your relationship because you are too much, constantly needing that approval. Because, we have to learn to take care of ourselves and find our own value for
Mhm.
ourselves from our own inside out. Having other people try and externally validate us all the
Is
time.
okay. Yeah.
No, and it's nice to have, but it can't be the whole thing that you're looking for. You have to learn to validate yourself.
Yeah.
So really, really important. It can be changed. It's not, this is the way I am, so I can't change it.
Mm.
And you are hurting the people
Yourself.
around you and yourself. Yeah. And I think that's something people don't realize as either is that I worked with a leader who didn't realize that her correcting everybody's mistakes, that it was demoralizing her team. And here she thought she was just helping.
Pushing them on and
She was
yeah.
helping them and she was, making the team look better. But no, because they're not being innovative, they're not being creative, they're not learning by their mistakes, they're not creating resilience, they're being pushed down. And
Mm.
so we need to be aware of what we are doing and how other people are absorbing our fear of
Yeah.
being judged and fear of failure, because that's what it is.
Yeah, it's crazy. See, when you talk about it like that, I had never quite framed it in that way. And it's really interesting because it allows you, I think, when you're able to take that step back, whether you are the perfectionist or you were with somebody, I think it does help to understand a little bit more that, as you said, it comes from somewhere. So
Yeah.
it can be undone because I think that really is, I think people a couple of years ago, until a couple of years ago, I'd say it was almost like a badge of honor. I'm a perfectionist, right? Don't you? People
Oh,
used to be like, and I am so not a perfectionist, apart from the housework. But even then, I wasn't. It was just this ingrained, like you have to keep everything super tidy all the time, right? Um, but I find that if you're able to kind of understand where it's coming from, as you said, to understand that it can change, it doesn't have to be that way. And it always used to, like, when people used to say I'm a perfectionist, I have to admit I often used to feel sort of very sub because I'm like, I'm not. I'm really sorry, I'm not a perfectionist. I try hard, but I'm nowhere near a perfectionist. And now hearing you talk, I'm like, thank you. Save myself a lot of stress there. A
yeah,
lot of
it's a
things going on, but that's
big
not one of them.
problem and people are really hurting for
Mm.
that. And I don't know men versus women. I just maybe because I know women better. I think women, it's so much harder because you look at society and you look at social media
Perfection,
and it's like
everything.
those, we're
Yeah.
supposed to have that perfect life.
Oh my gosh.
You add that on top of your perfectionism and it's like, oh my God, that's burnout, that's anxiety, that's depression, that is all
Yeah.
of that waiting to happen. And what happens to our kids is when we are full of anxiety and depression and stuff in our quest to make sure that we have everything right in for fear of being judged.
Yeah.
So just to wrap that up, my thoughts on that as a coach and as a recovering perfectionist is perspective is everything and really challenging yourself. So go talk to somebody. I think that, there's a lot of books out there you can read, you can watch videos, but actually having somebody that you can talk to and just to get a new perspective. It's hard to understand and see from just through our own eyes. Having somebody else take a look and challenge that perspective is amazing and so good for your mental health.
And I think sort of to really sort of, yeah, reframe in some ways maybe what you've just said is also understand that if you are somebody who's a perfectionist, it doesn't mean that you are not good or there's something wrong. It's just a trait, right?
100%.
It's not you as a person. It's just one of the ways that you function.
It's a learned behavior.
Yeah, is not actually functioning well for you.
Yeah.
And I think, because maybe somebody that's hearing this and that is going, oh my gosh, that's actually me. Please don't feel bad. Like, it's not, there's something that can be done and it will actually take a lot of pressure and stress off you once you kind of go, okay, yeah, it's all right to let whatever go. But as you
Yeah.
said, help is probably needed for it to
Yeah.
happen.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Okay, so great discussion. If anybody's got any comments, if they know of anybody who might get some great use out of this, that might need this information, please send that along. If you enjoyed it, please like us. If you have any comments or you have any other topics that you want us to talk about, we would love to hear from you. So just send us a message and we will connect. And I hope everybody has a wonderful day.
Enjoy the rest of it.
Bye.
Bye bye.